We return tonight to the Broughton Archipelago on the BC coast, just across from northern Vancouver Island, for part 4 in our in-depth focus on the pros and cons of BC's fish farming industry. Tonight we travel to Echo Bay to talk to the woman who's leading the charge against fish farming, a woman who says the industry's reassurances that it's safer than ever go against her research.
Every morning, Alex Morton heads out to collect samples of juvenile salmon. She's been studying fish in the Broughton Archipelago for 6 years, and she's convinced fish farms are killing the wild salmon stocks.
The weight of evidence that salmon farms are causing decline of major salmon populations around the world is big enough that our government should be doing something about it. It is absolutely criminal that they're letting this go.
Morton and her researchers capture the baby wild salmon in nets to count them. At this time of year, the smolts have just left the river and are heading out to sea.
Okay, girls. You got enough?
Yeah, more than enough. We dip them up, put them in this baggie, measure them, how long they are, and then look at them under the magnifying glass to see how many lice they're on. There's the louse. In its attached stage, still a very young louse, it's going to grow to be a lot bigger than that. If a fish this big has one louse on it that grows up to adulthood, so if the louse matures on a fish this big, it kills it. In some areas of this archipelago, the sea lice coming from the salmon farms are killing up to 95% of the young wild salmon.
Morton says the problem is that the smolts swim along the channels of the Broughton Archipelago, right past the fish farms.
One of the things that becomes abundantly clear from the air is the vast number of fish farms in this area and the fact that so many of them are positioned right along the migratory routes of the wild salmon.
The diseases waft out of these pens with the currents. The little fish swim right through a soup of viruses. They even swim right through the pens. We've seen the fry right inside the pens. They are subject to any disease, and then on they go to the open Pacific. It's an absolute recipe for disaster.
That theory was supported in a landmark study last fall by a team of scientists, including John VOLPE of the University of Victoria.
What it does is confirms what has been building over the last number of years of research, that the salmon farms are a major source of these lice and are a major threat to wild salmon.
But the Department of Fisheries and Oceans claims that sea lice levels hit a record low last year, and its scientists say the evidence isn't quite so clear.
We know from now the 4 years of sampling that we've done that there's a lot of variability in the infection rates of juvenile salmon, both in the same location from 1 year to the next or 1 month to the next, and also between years. So the patterns are highly variable. We also know that in a natural environment like this, the environmental conditions change very substantially from 1 year to the next or 1 week to the next even.
Over at Morton's Scientific Research Center in Echo Bay, teams of PhD students are also doing extensive testing of sea lice and its impact on salmon.
We started out with just sea lice on this individual here, and you can see that we started off with 3, and I think there's now 1 on this one.
The DFO is now collaborating with Morton on some projects, and while the government continues calling for more reports and scientific data to add to the mountains of information already collected, Morton is calling for action.
What I'm seeing out here this year is there are so few fish left that it would take very little to snuff them out, and then they're over. The wild salmon is like a key to a lock with its river. 10,000 years of evolution have gone on to make each salmon run fit its river. It's a beautiful system, and once you break that link, we don't know how to put that back.
If you'd like more information about BC wild salmon, everything from fishing for salmon to cooking it, you can go to wildbcsalmon.ca.